Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the UnFuckIt discussion. I'm in a real bitchy mood, and I'm like ready to start some shit and throw it down. So it could be an interesting conversation tonight. It's okay because I've started the Grumpy Old Ladies Club, and apparently everyone is joining, regardless of age or sex. So there we go. I want to do a big call out and say hi to our Twitch audience on twitch.tv. We're going live stream over there. For the first time, we're testing our live stream account because fuck YouTube. Fuck YouTube. Just fuck YouTube. Fuck them. I'm so fucking done. Anyways, yes, because I've been banned from YouTube for 90 days. So fuck them. We'll stick to Twitch then. I will start doing I'm going to make a little video to go up on YouTube for all my YouTube subscribers. It'll be like just a little 2-minute video saying, hi, we're going live streaming on Twitch in half an hour. Come over and join us. Link in the description. And I'll start doing that. Well done, Bossy. Exactly. Fuck YouTube. Ah, yes. So the insanity is continuing. The insanity is continuing so big and so deep and so tall. I literally opened the new year. I don't know about anyone else. So we have this whole, New Year's Eve shit. Call it what you want. I don't know who it is who decided it's a New Year's or not because it wasn't me. And I don't even know what fucking year we're actually in right now. So take it from there. I got up New Year's morning and it was like same old, same old. New Year's Eve, same old, same old. The only difference is that my 2 boys stayed up because they insisted they had to stay up till midnight, and they discovered how just unexciting it is to stay up till midnight. And nothing special. Woke up the next day, nothing special. It was like a flat blah. And it's not like I'm a grown up. I don't expect fireworks. Ooh, it's all new and fresh and lovely. No, I didn't. But it was just really energetically like as blah as shit. And I have been fucking pissy. Like short-tempered, that much fucking patience. And everyone in my house is the same. Everyone I'm talking to is the same. It's like they woke up and their fuse went over New Year's Eve, no fuse. No fuse at all. It's strange. There's a very blah, flat feeling to everything. And yeah, it's just like being completely short-tempered and having no patience left for anything. I went out on my Facebook page. It started actually New Year's Eve itself. And while the fact that you're like New Year's Eve, Happy New Year's, over and over again, 1,000 times, million times, whatever. But the posts were like so many fucking idiots posting shit that has been unresearched. They have no clue what they're talking about. And I was just literally, like I said, the fuse was only that big. So I was like, unfriend, unfriend, unfriend. And I thought, okay, well, it's just New Year's Eve. Apparently, I'm just a little bitchy today. I woke up New Year's Day. I did the same thing all day long. I must have unfriended about 200 people. I was just like, you're an idiot. I don't need to see your shit anymore. You're an idiot. I'm not looking at your shit anymore either. I'm so sick of seeing pictures of your dinner. I'm not looking at that anymore. I have zero tolerance for bullshit now. If there's one thing I can say that the New Year rang in for me is apparently I'm in a zero tolerance zone. Just I can't deal with the bullshit. It's like you feel the bullshit. People post stuff, people say things to you, and you're just like, really? That's such bullshit. I just can't take it. I have no interest. It's not even that I can't take it. It's that I now have no interest in taking it anymore. As in, on things like social media, just the idea of scrolling past is almost become too much effort. It's like, no, I'd just rather remove you from my feed entirely so I don't even have to scroll past it. So I know that according to everyone I've spoken to in the last, 32 hours of New Year's from where my time zone is right now, we've had about 32 hours of New Year's. Everyone's in the same mood. Everyone I've spoken to is just like, yeah, done. So fucking done with this shit. Someone, I shouldn't even say someone. It was put out on CBC, which is one of the biggest mainstream Canadian news outlets. And I read the whole article. Apparently you had to listen to it to get the final punchline. I couldn't even be bothered listening to it. I read the whole article, and it was purportedly supposed to be a satire piece. But you know when satire is just a little too fucking close to home? It's just a little too, could very well happen. And the article was that some member of parliament in Canada was offended by the word thank you and is now trying to pass a law where thank you can no longer be used in Canada, and now you have to say thank all. I literally lost my shit. It was like, I was just like, I can no longer be Canadian anymore. Someone please give me another nationality. I cannot even travel on this Canadian passport. I cannot, taking fucking the Canadian flag off my backpack because I don't want anyone to fucking know that I'm Canadian, because that is how asinine shit has become in this purported country that I was born in, accidentally born in. So, yeah, I know, trust me.
What about the U.S. where you can't, when you go and you get a loan now from the bank or you go do anything that has anything to do with federal, you have to mark on there that you support Israel or some bullshit. And I'm like, are you serious? Yes, or they won't give you a fucking loan.
Okay, wait. Okay, is this just Texas?
No.
What the actual fuck?
It's appearing on paperwork everywhere. Even on the people that are that don't have enough money, and they have children, all that stuff. When they sign their stuff, it's like you have to give an allegiance to Israel in our country now.
Well.
And I'm like
I'm
shocked.
sorry to be an asshole to say, but isn't it right now the moment where you can't criticize the one who is in power moment, so to speak?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it's been going that way. But this is the last few weeks has been nothing but, and I always talk about transparency and how we've said, give us the transparency, make it transparent. We want to see it all. But the last few weeks, the shit that we've seen out politically, financially, is epic in its insanity. Like, this kind of stuff. And I mean, you know me, because I follow even way over here in Europe where I am now, I follow all the stuff that's going on in America, and I get the news feeds, and I have everyone's posting me shit and the links and that. And on Australia too. You Aussies are not fucking out of this shit, because you're seriously just as fucked up as America is, and Canada. The shit that has come out as policy and is being pushed as there's no words. It's completely asinine. And you sit there and go like, in what court do you have the right to make these fucking laws? Like, you're going to have, we always talk about, when you talk about show me the law, you have to tell them, show me 3 generations of law. Because you have to show me the law that gives you the right to make that law, and show you the law that gives you the right to make that law that supports it. Like 3 generations of laws to support you making this law. There can't, it's fucking insane. It's fucking insane. I literally, profound moment of just At one point this morning, I was sitting there, and I literally immersed myself in astrophysics this morning, which we're going to get into in a few minutes. I literally was like, I spent 3-4 hours this morning watching nothing but physics videos and talking with the astrophysics and the solar stuff and the electric universe stuff, etc. But I literally, in between bits and pieces, as you're kind of floating through and finding other stuff coming up, and you always get your bits down the YouTube and on the side of your YouTube, recommended for you, purportedly supposed to be based on what you've watched, and the shit that's coming up, even in the titles, you're just like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want to be here anymore. This world is just, there's just nothing left. There's nothing left to interest me anymore. There's nothing left to like, the whole thing is so fucked. Yeah. That's about all I'm going to say on that, because otherwise I really will start ranting and losing my shit. So today I immersed myself in astrophysics and electric universe theory, and I posted a pile of it in the UnFuckIt group on Facebook. And I don't know if you guys got a chance to take a look at any of them, any of the videos. I don't know if anyone was brave enough to go down that rabbit hole this morning or today when you got up and saw all the shit that I did. One of the biggest things out of all the videos, if you just as a broad spectrum, is the fact that everything that we consider to be classical science, everything that is being considered to be law, perhaps you want to say, like, as in the law of mass, the law of gravity, the law of this, the law of that, is complete and utter bullshit. And several of these videos, while they're getting into very specific, in-depth topics, they're getting in, these guys are talking, and they're explaining why there's been a theory has been put forward in physics, say, in the 1800s, before they had the ability to be able to test a lot of shit and look at a lot of shit, and that these theories have become concrete. They have become something that has become a foundational piece that all other physics theories have been built upon. And we've talked about this before. But today it was really astounding, because some of the stuff that they were talking about, and like I said, talking about astrophysics, so talking about, for example, what is the fucking sun? Now, this is a basic thing that we all learn in public school. The sun is a great big giant ball of burning gas. No, it's not. No, it's not. That was a theory that they came up with in the 1860s that has never been tested, and everyone built their theories on that theory. And then they built that theory in how they register other stars, and how they theoretical on light and particles and matter and how it moves. But it's all based on this theory that our star, the sun, is a burning ball of gas, which it's not. And when you take that out of the equation and then you put various other pieces into the equation, none of those theories now have any relevance. Like, they're like basically Einstein's theory of relativity out the window. Just take it, crunch it up, fucking just chuck it out the window. So many of these theories that we accept as fact, not just us though, so many theories that you're taught in school as absolutes. University, scientists are taught this. So they go through and they do bachelor's and then master's and then get their doctorates based on stuff that is treated like an absolute. It's unquestionable. And if you do question it, you're considered a fucking wackadoodle, i.e. people like Velikovsky. And when he wrote Worlds in Collision, he was just completely looked at like he was a complete insane nutter, because what he postulates is so outside accepted science that Worlds in Collision, there we go. Ben's just going to hold up the books as we talk about them, because he's pulled all his books out and he's collected them on the floor. Mankind and Amnesia. I have got a copy of that, and I am going to force myself to sit down and read it. The Mankind in Amnesia book is supposed to be quite good. And all of Velikovsky's books are available in the Unfuckers library. So there you go. Here's the thing. Like I said, all these pieces. So the problem is when you get, for example, you put up a YouTube video and you put out information and material, and they say things, you get commenters who come back going, oh, well, that's bullshit because I'm an engineer, or I did physics in university and it doesn't work that way. And you're like, says who? Show me your proof. Show me your proof. They're incapable. And it's really, really interesting because there was in one of the videos, I think it was Suspicious Observers, maybe not. One of them came up and they mentioned Jordan Peterson doing an interview with a guy whose name has just completely escaped me now. And the statement that he made was talking about the hemispheres of the brain. And he talked about the left hemisphere of the brain will not see what it is not programmed to see. And I'm paraphrasing. But basically, that programmed left hemisphere of the brain, which is that part of the brain where they put you in school and they pound it into you, just answer the questions the way we want them answered, memorize all this information, don't question it, etc. It's literally stops the right hemisphere from being able to see what is right in front of it because it does not fall into the patterning. It doesn't fall into the programming. And this is it. And we keep going into this whole question again of like, okay, wait. Some people are just apparently incapable of being able to see these things that are directly in front of them. They're incapable of seeing reason. They're incapable of, when you try to explain some of the basic stuff that we talk about, like the dangers of vaccines or chemtrails or, pick a frickin' topic. They are incapable of it. And now we're realizing, like, it's actually scientifically, like, it is the left brain has been so heavily programmed by the education system. You are not allowed to question. You must not, to the point that they cannot even see it. And we talk about people being stubborn fucks. Well, no, maybe it's just the fact that they're literally so programmed. They are incapable of going beyond anything.
Hey, speaking about programming, a couple of months ago, I read something very interesting on the dark corners of the web. There was some guy posting stuff about that on an evolutionary basis, our brains are triggered or wired to to copy the behavior of other people that you can observe, right?
Yep.
So, and basically the TV, the tell-lie vision, literally goes straight through that firewall that you actually don't have at this point, and literally sees things, especially for young people, see things on a television and literally think that this is appropriate behavior because they saw it and they copy it, and here it repeats itself, right?
Disney Channel. When we were still living in Canada, I refused to have the Disney Channel in my house because I was not going to let my kids watch fucking Miley Cyrus and all these shows that, occasionally Disney Channel would do like a free week, like over March break or Disney Christmas vacation. They'd get like, it would be for free. And my kids would go and start watching this. And I'd sit there and watch these shows and be like, no, my kids are not watching these shows. Nothing about this behavior is acceptable. Nothing about anything in these shows is even remotely realistic. I don't want my kids being programmed to think that this is an acceptable way to behave, an acceptable way to do things, that this is how life works, or this is how life should work. It was ridiculous. And it's funny now because, of course, my oldest daughter is 16 now. And now she sees it because her best friend has gone back to live in the States and is now being completely smothered by this social programming. And many times Quinlan gets off a call with her and goes, I keep telling her, like, that's not real. It's not the way shit goes, and that's just the way they pretend it is on a TV show, and all your friends are just trying to pretend they're in a TV show, but it's not actually fucking real. Like, yes, and now you know why I've kept you out of North America as fast as I fucking could. Yeah, and the kid, yeah, and this is on YouTube. And you know, Rebecca, this is my curse, is because I allow my kids pretty much free reign. I don't believe in really censoring my kids. But I've seen now I actually have to. Now, my eldest daughter, it's not a problem. My two girls, it's not a problem. It's with my youngest son, because he loves watching, for example, guys who play the video games, like do Minecrafting, and they do all the videos and they're Minecrafting, they're building stuff. And it's fine when it's in creative mode and they're doing all this creative stuff. I don't mind it. But then he's discovered a few that go off, and next thing you know, he's watching videos, and their video games are like really like Five Nights at Freddy's. I don't know if you guys know that. And I was just like, yeah, no, you're not watching that. But it's so-and-so. I don't care if it's so-and-so. If that's what he's playing and that's what he's bringing into your attention is this kind of stuff, no, not happening. And I've realized that, like, well, my girls are good. I know that they know, and I know how they go through stuff. When my boys, they're young enough yet, they don't have an active filter. And I am going to have to start censoring what they do and what they're watching for the first time ever. I don't know. I tell you, it's fucking crazy shit. Yes, Penny.
I am sorry. I know Zoom took my picture off, so I've just got a black. But I'll get that changed. But I've noticed, you know, a lot of our grumpiness, I'm wondering if it's coming from we are now totally awake. And all this is such bullshit. I mean, complete and utter bullshit. I mean, you can't even call it a comedy. It's like the most horribly written
B movie.
Oh my God, not even a B. It would be a Z movie, Danny. That's how bad it is. And I know, I don't know what it was, but yeah, just like you on New Year's Eve. It was like this.
I saw some of your posts.
And it was like, I can't handle this. I really try to be patient. I do, guys. But it is so absurd. These people think that they are really intelligent, throwing out these one-word phrases or putting in the mind-wash propaganda that they have been told over and over. And so they repeat it like a parrot, right? And they honestly think they're intelligent.
And they have no real clue of what these words mean.
Exactly.
They really don't know. Like, they've never researched what these words actually mean.
Yes,
Socialist,
exactly.
Marxist, fascist, capitalist, communist. Liberalism.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah, no fucking clue.
And
by the way, fun fact, did you guys know that Google just a few years ago changed the definition of fascist or fascism?
Well,
Really?
of course, Bessie. It's all. Oh my God! I came across the video of Fagin today. It's like 2.5 hours long, but I mean, it's the complete of the takeover of society, right? And I'm like listening to it, going, "Oh yeah, yeah." Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, but at the same time, looking at this takeover and going, you know what? Hold on.
It's
because
not
there
working.
Has been good.
It's not working.
Hold on, Earl. There is good that has come out of it. Okay, so everybody, they keep piling on all this evil. Oh, everything's so fucking evil and blah, blah, blah. Well, we're just as bad as that, as the brainwashed propaganda crap that we keep shoving, these people keep shoving down our throats. Guys, there is good and bad and everything. And
Yep.
I do see a lot of good that has come out of this
Yep.
over, right?
Yep.
And so what I'm finding that I'm really done with patience over is people being the fucking victim. You know what? Stand up, people. Get your fucking power back. You never lost it. You just gave it away. All right? But it's still attached. Just take it the fuck back. You are the power. You are the authority. And you know what? If you think people are crushing you and people are doing this and people are doing that, you know what? It's because you let them. God damn it. Just stop. Back the fuck off and just look at it in a sane manner.
Exactly.
You still
Take
have your power. You still have your authority. It's all bullshit, guys. Just fucking clear the fog away.
Clear the
Exactly.
programming away.
Exactly. Take a deep breath, calm down, and then literally throw them to death with fucking facts. I mean, yeah. Give them facts. We'll make
Facts.
heads.
Yeah, but
They're not. Hold on. They are so deep in this, they can't see the facts.
They don't see facts. That's
Yes,
what I'm saying.
I know, Penny.
That-
Penny, a few days ago, I was at our supermarkets have sometimes like the supermarket, and they have like a different store next to it where you can buy drinks, all kinds, like
Yeah.
you name it, right? They have it. And a person looked at me, had a bottle of grape juice in his hands, and asked me, does that have a lot of sugar? And I looked at him, it has grape sugar. Over here, grape sugar is fruit sugar, basically translated. And I looked at him and told him, like, yeah, grape sugar. And he looked at me, does it have a lot of sugar? Yeah, grape sugar. Does it have a lot of sugar? Yeah, grape sugar. And that person still,
Repeat.
yeah, exactly.
Because, and it's, that's that, we'll go into it, why not? That's that whole kind of bot, that NPC kind of thing. They ask a question and you don't respond, and the programming goes, boom, and they go, but does it have sugar in it? And you explain, yes, it's got grape sugar. Does not compute. Boom, does it have sugar in it? Because the programming is such, like, they can't. You have just said something in a foreign language to them. You might as well have been speaking Swahili. They did not comprehend your answer on any level. Or yes, okay, Ben.
Or you weren't speaking in their language.
Yep, absolutely. But again,
well, hang on. If you turned around and said yes, natural fruit sugar, they may have responded differently. I know that's
Yeah, but the syntax had already fruit sugar in it. Like
I totally
can
get
that
that.
be a syntax error or something?
No, see that, and that's the big issue, right? Is individual languages. You say love to somebody, and someone will have one interpretation, and someone have another.
Yep.
But someone may have a separate attachment to that word as well, and it might not be nice for them because of something that's happened.
Yep.
So we have our own individual dictionaries, and I'm not trying to stick up for nonsense. Actually, that's the wrong word. I just learned that's the wrong word for idiots. It's all contextual, right? It's like when we talk about the past. Do we make sure that we have a clear understanding of the context of that past? Or are we still speaking of it from now? And what I mean is like, I've been thinking about this electric universe stuff. Now, even if we only had a couple of 100-meter tall trees everywhere, And in Australia, that was like 200, 250 years ago.
Yeah.
The atmospheric conditions for the ionic fields and the discharges and all that kind of stuff is completely different. So the context in which we're looking at things under is much different. Much like we've spoken about like cosmology and the amount of light pollution and what we can't actually see.
But even in history, like you said, and you said right there about the past, and when we talk about history, sometimes you have to really clarify for people what you mean by history, in the fact of, in this group, we all question everything we've been told about any kind of history. Even 30-year-old history, we know is a lot of it has been made up bullshit. So now you go back 50, 100 years, 2, 5, 6, 1,000 years, right? So when we talk about things like history, you almost have to clarifying the language and saying things, for example, like, well, did you notice, instead of saying like ancient Egypt, say something like, well, when King Tut, like give it a clarifying moment of being like, okay, well, if you're talking about Cleopatra, and give it a time that they can actually be on the same page as you. Right? Do you understand what I'm saying? And yeah, I get what Ben's saying. Sometimes we just have to take our language back, and you have to keep restating again until you come across the wording that maybe the person can comprehend. As simple as saying naturally occurring fruit sugars.
It's like me being in this Discord channel I'm in called 24/7, and they're like a bunch of flat earthers and Christians in there. So last night, like, I'm trying to like help this Christian flat earther because he's going on about homosexuality and about AIDS and all that. I'm like, and I'm bringing up, good questions, like good, answering stuff for him, and he's like, well, yeah, but that's not what the Bible says. I'm like, think of what you would want if you were God. And for me, like I was telling him, for me, I would, because I'm a creative being, and he's like, oh, well, Satan took over. Yeah. But to me, that's like someone painting on my painting. It's like, no, you don't go painting on my new, beautiful painting. You just don't. But being in this group with flat earthers, that's all they talk about. It's like, it's really, but it's like nothing new. It's like,
they're in that, like, it's what I was saying a few months ago, and I was saying people are getting absolutely sucked into a narrative. And it doesn't matter what your narrative is. It can be the flat earth narrative, or it can be a Christian narrative, or a religious narrative, or a political narrative. It can be a dietary narrative. God forbid I say the word vegan. Dietary narrative. And it becomes the be-all, end-all. And that's all they can talk about. That's all they can. It's like, in the response to any, I had someone on one of the YouTube videos that I did last week or the week before, I dared to mention the word globe during the conversation. And I had somebody come in and go, it's a flat earth, it's got this, the firmament, and I was like, all I did was respond and say, right, 2.5 hours of conversation on the electric universe, and your only comment, your only thought on this whole conversation is to correct the terminology of globe? Like, that's all you got from this? You just need to stop listening now. Just because literally you can't even get beyond, my God, she said the word globe. They can't break out of the cycle. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's like everything has become compacted narratives. And it doesn't matter what you're seeing. Dawn, I just had to mute you, darling, because there's a weird feedback coming back through again. They're stuck in these narratives, and it has become all-encompassing. And they can't see beyond it.
It's like, I don't know how people can mentally they talk about, they literally sit there and talk about, oh, we're being controlled, like, oh, we're not being controlled, we understand, like, we're not being, no. But when you put yourself into a narrative where it's continually current, you're sort of imprisoning yourself. And for those people who say, oh, well, we need to break out of prison, okay, fine, you need to break out of prison,
Then
but
start
yet
thinking for yourself.
you're putting yourself into another mental prison that you do not need to mentally be in. To me, I could care less if the earth was flat, round, triangular. It's like I'm here. There's nothing I can do about it. It's like people just pick up stuff that, like, is it really going to affect you mentally every day to know that, oh, I'm on around Earth? No, because you're not thinking,
But that's what they're there for. Like, I think that's why these narratives are created, is to it's a narrative is created to suck people in, just to keep them inside a box.
Right.
And they can think they're outside the box because, oh my God, I'm such a free thinker. I believe in flat Earth. But it's a box. And they twist all the facts that they learn, any facts that they hear, they have to fit inside that box. And if they don't fit inside that box, then the facts are just thrown away.
So what if the ruse is merely knowledge? Because as soon as you start knowing stuff, your world changes, right?
Yep.
You can't look at things the same.
Yep.
See, and that's the kind of trip. So it's like they had us fucked because we couldn't read, but guess what? We learned. It's like then they tried to burn the books, but guess what? People kept stuff hidden. And then someone invented the internet to run some stupid machine to try and screw up something somewhere along the lines, and it just so happened to give us all that information and ability to access it. See, the whole thing is always like with facts, you can't just go, oh, that's a fact. It's got to be put to the test to see if it logically is a fact or not. It's like you have facts in physics that are based on mathematical equations that were created to back up that fact. Now that works inside a computer based on those calculations. But most of the time you try and put it out into reality, whatever that reality may be, triangle, square, plane, round. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Perfect example. Newton said that a prism will split white light into all the colors. Ba-bow.
No.
Ba-bow. It's wrong.
And yet, that is still taught.
No, not just taught. That is the basis.
It is the
that
basis
is one of
point.
the basis.
Yep,
right?
It is a basis point.
Computer says yes, reality says no. So perspective, once you know certain things, it's like the representation that you're given by reality is not what you thought it was anymore.
Like, they don't even think gravity exists.
Don't even get me started.
But then I'm like to them, wait a minute. So, like, I fell a week or two ago,
you can't talk to them, though.
Yeah.
That's the end. The final comment on that conversation, Earl, is that you can't talk to them because they literally don't have the language to be able to comprehend what you try to say. That one there, that one there. There's no such thing as gravity. Okay, but what gravity are you talking about? Are you talking about Newtonian gravity?
Exactly right.
Or are you talking about ether energy gravity? Or electric universe gravity? Like, which gravity are you talking about? And which one
Or
are you saying
spin.
doesn't exist?
but then see, and that's it, Bessie. That's exactly, you just dropped in there, and it's like that's the whole thing. Is color is a variation of a wavelength, which is actually not a linear wave. It's a spin format, and they are representations of things. So chromatography, and what's this new word that I've just discovered today?
Ben pulls out the book.
Heliobiology, right? Which is basically, they've been mapping for centuries the influence of planets, the sun and the moon on biology and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, But these,
that was the conversation we got into last night. Yep.
And I'm trying to hold back, but you know, the color formats, they show certain things. It's like, you look at the articles, it's like, oh look, iron oxide being activated in the red clouds, or look at the oxygen or the hydrogen being, you know, in the aurora borealis and that sort of stuff. So it's like, we keep on separating them ourselves because of Newtonian physics, basically.
Exactly.
Whereas
they're all the same, actually.
Yeah.
You can't have the one without the other. Exactly.
That's exactly right.
But hey, Ben, I'm sorry for bombing this here, but seriously, keep on dropping those red pills. They're really appreciated.
I'm going to publish the conversation that Ben and I had last night with Ann Callahan. If Ann's okay with that, Ann, I hope you're okay with that. You in your bathrobe. You look cute in your bathrobe, so I think it should be okay. That guy was in my PJs. It's okay. I hadn't brushed my hair in 3 days, and I didn't have no makeup on. I was wearing like dirty old sweatsuit. So there you go. It's not about, you know, how we look. It's the words that are coming across. The conversations can get really, really deep. And for tonight, for this moment, I don't want to get into some of that aspect, Ben, because Ann and I want to revisit that conversation with you again, because Ann's got a lot of questions about the whole thing about the flowers and the plants and the planetary alignments, etc. That your internet was just so shockingly bad last night that
I sent her a few links this morning.
Okay, good. I do want to talk a bit about these videos that I watched today. So I kind of may have traumatized my children just before I went live. That after or during dinner, after dinner tonight, I put on a movie for us to watch, and we watched The Day After Tomorrow, which I think I should traumatize all of UnFuckers if you haven't seen it, and we should watch it on Sunday. I don't know if any of you guys have actually seen it.
It's worth a view. You're right. It's worth a watch.
Well, I haven't watched it in probably 7, 8, 9 years since I've seen it. Put it on, and the opening 10 minutes, if you watch that movie again, if we watch that on Sunday, I'll put it up to the room, we'll see if everyone's okay with that. If you watch it on Sunday, the opening 10 minutes is going to shock the shit out of you. Because the opening 10 minutes was the last 2 weeks that we've been through globally on the planet. Yes, I said the word globally, suck it up. Globally on the planet. Massive hurricanes, massive hailstorm that comes out of fucking nowhere and wipes out a city. And that's, of course, what hit Sydney. The catastrophic hailstorm a week and a half ago. We had tidal waves. We had volcanoes. We had massive earthquakes. All of tornadoes that appeared out of fire tornadoes. Again, I don't know if you guys saw the videos. I put a bunch of videos up this morning. A fire in the Netherlands. And you should have seen the fire tornadoes coming off of it. And like there's 2 different videos, so you know it's not CGI, it's not been someone tampered with. There's actually 2 videos from 2 different people who are at the event on different sides of the field. And it's like there's this huge fire. I don't know what building it is that's on fire. And there's just fire tornadoes coming off of it, like boom, boom. Like in the video, there was about 4 or 5 fire tornadoes just go across it and just go right across the ground. Boom. So yeah, interesting. I mean, typical Hollywood. Ignore the global warming, it's CO2 emissions that are causing this climate change, because it's not, we all know that. So throw all the political bullshit rhetoric out of the thing. Interesting fucking movie, because this gets into the stuff that we've been talking about, and this a lot of the stuff that I've just published recently. So the Electric Universe stuff, the stuff, the one that was the video I had everyone take a look at it. We never even got a chance to really get into it. And it was the CIA document, the CIA book called Adam and Eve, that was recently declassified. Now, interestingly enough, for me to go, we'll go a little offside with this one, is like, I watch all those kinds of things. I watch for those kind of books being declassified, etc. And I'd never heard of that book before until I saw the video. Now, it was apparently declassified in 2009 and then published 2013 with 8 missing pages, we will add, and some lovely blacked out marks in it. And basically the book is about pole shift. It's about the poles flipping. There's some excellent information. I've downloaded the PDF. It's embedded in one of the art. No, I didn't get around to that. I will embed it with this article. So with this show, I'll embed the PDF of the book there so you can go through it. But it gets into the video that I was discussing about it gets into, for example, Velikovsky's World in Collision, Hapgood and his material. These are all guys who have put out information that goes totally against the mainstream scientific accepted facts of how our solar system works, what our sun is, how planets came to be, etc. Now, again, as I always say, don't get caught up in the narrative. Even in something like this, even in Velikovsky stuff, yes, there's a narrative in there. Don't get caught up in the narrative. Take the pieces out that need to be pulled out and looked at. Because some of the stuff that we can look at, we can say, we have actual, we could consider to be proof that of these things are taking place. Velikovsky talked about the arcing and the electrical discharges and the arcing, and the fact that the moon isn't covered in fucking craters. Venus is not covered in fucking craters from, all these meteors hitting it. No, those are discharge arcs. And now these kind of discharges have actually been reproduced in labs. And there was a video I watched a few months ago where the guys did it in a lab, and they did it on a big pan of dirt, sand. It was finer than sand, but it wasn't just plain dirt. And they put they discharged electricity through it, and then they held it up, and basically, because it was a lovely grayish color, you couldn't tell the difference between the pan of dirt that they'd put the arc discharge through and the surface of the moon. You couldn't tell the difference.
Hey, Danny, before I forget this, especially about Venus, what most people don't know or not thinking about, Venus is one of the newest planets we have in our solar system. It even spins in the wrong direction, if I'm not mistaken, compared to the other ones. So and it even has, you can see it with a telescope. It even has like a coma, like a comet does. Yep. And guess what? Every year when our flu season starts, we are literally passing through the coma to the comet tail of that once comet that got captured and turned into Venus. Yep. Literally every year when the flu season is, we're passing through that tail. Interesting, huh?
Hold on, I'm just passing a link over to someone in the Twitch TV chat. So I keep mentioning Velikovsky.
Don't do that, Danny.
No? Okay, sorry.
Well, that chat's public.
Oh, okay, I didn't think about that. Sorry, I won't do it again. Soul Journey, I wasn't supposed to do that. I just got told off by my producer. I'm in trouble. Now I'm going to have to go sit in the naughty corner. It's always in the Facebook page. It's always on the UnFuckers Unite site. The link for the Zoom.
Can you delete it, please?
I don't know. Can I? Can I delete it?
It's the little icon right next to your red camera.
Yeah, hold on. I've got to move. I don't have a little icon next to my red camera. Broadcaster. I don't have an icon. Hold on, guys. Sorry, I'm having a technical difficulty now. I've fucked up my chat completely. Okay, close. No, I don't. There's no icon.
Okay, it's just you may not be set up yet. That's okay.
I'm sorry. I fucked it all up, everyone. Just ignore that. No one see that. You didn't see nothing. Nothing happened.
But hang on. How is that bad that we mentioned Velikovsky?
Sorry. It was all rolled up, everyone. Just ignore that. No one see that. Okay, hold on. We got someone there. Sorry, say again, Bossy.
How is that bad that we mentioned Velikovsky? I mean, seriously.
No. Just let me finish. So what I was going to say is, for example, I listen to what's it? Oh, fuck! I am just really not remembering names tonight. The guy who does all the Electric Universe videos from
Wallace Thornhill.
Sorry?
There's Wallace Thornhill.
Thornhill.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was listening to these guys. We still have to remember it's all theoretical. What they're discussing is also all theoretical. It doesn't mean that we come across a new theory and we swallow it whole. I am always put it on the table. I'm not going to take on the whole narrative. I don't necessarily agree with some of the theories on how Venus came to be. I certainly don't agree with the mainstream, but I don't know that these guys are correct either. Regardless, I don't need, at this point in my journey, in my personal journey, I don't need to know where the fuck Venus came from. It's really not important in my daily life. I don't need to know where Saturn's moon Titan came from. It's not really that important. I would like to get this guy on, so I'd like to get Thornhill on the show, but I don't want to talk about the past. I don't want to talk about the how it came to be, because you know what? That really doesn't change where we are now. Other than the fact that we have to, looking forward, know that we need to look at things differently than what we're told. So I would like to talk to him, and I want to know now, what does Electric Universe, in all the theoretical stuff that we're studying right now, what does it mean to us on this planet right now with all the events that we are seeing? When we're looking at the events of these massive transformer blowouts and Suspicious Observers lately has put out some really, really good videos. And I don't mean his daily ones. I mean kind of as asides. He's presenting some pieces to be looked at. He talked about the transformers, and he talked about the arcs. Again, the whole Electric Universe, the fact of like the arcing between. It's exactly what it fucking looks like. He showed some plasma arcs happening, and what does it do? It lights everything up fucking blue. Everything around it lights up fucking blue. Okay, well, is that not what we saw? New York, Louisiana. Now, I was watching Marfugel. He was in Seattle. They saw the same fucking thing in Seattle, but no one's talking about that. So he saw it in Seattle. It was seen in Louisiana. It was seen in New York. We have other events that happened all over the place. These are all symptoms of something happening. So I don't want to get into a massive, huge debate on past history, how the universe formed. That, to me, isn't what is necessary at the moment. What's necessary at the moment is seeing what is happening right now, this moment. And
we've just got to make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and the facts that are presented, that have been presented, that correlate to now,
absolutely,
can be used.
Absolutely. So this is what I'm saying. A lot of people saw this whole the video, watched the Adam and Eve video that I can't remember even who put the video out. I'm gonna have to go find it again. Talking about the CIA document. That again
Leak Project, I think it was.
Leak Project, that's right. It doesn't mean we have to swallow the whole story whole. But there are pieces in this story. And some of the significant pieces in the story is talking about polar wander, or what has been called polar wander. That's what the kind of mainstream wants to call it, polar. And they kind of lay it out when you study this kind of stuff. The magnetic poles just kind of amble along, etc. They've talked about the fact, we've seen the fact that the poles have reversed. We have magnetic proof in rock formations, etc., where they've looked at it and they've said it is very obvious that the poles have switched and moved. What this guy is talking about in his book, this Adam and Eve one, is the fact that it's not a random thing. When they look at the geological assays of it, they're seeing that the pole doesn't just go like this randomly. It does this, boom, 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 boom. It switches back and forth in a set pattern. Therefore, technically, we should be able to know where the next, we could follow the pattern and be able to go back and say, okay, well then if the pole flips, it will be here because we already know it's been there before.
And just
this is a new piece.
On that whole pole thing, what the Adam and Eve document also goes into is the fact that, and people have got to remember this too, is when we speak about the poles, we're kind of actually talking about the dielectric field of the Earth. So it's not the actual crust, it's not the magma, it's not the core, it's energetic.
Well, it is energetic, but it does lead to shifting of the physical crust and structure as well.
And then but that's also going back to, that's an attribute of that.
Yes,
it's not
exactly.
It's not a separate thing. It's an attribute of that. It's like the stuff I've just been looking at recently, and going back to that Newtonian theory of light and stuff. So what Guter ended up finding was the spectrums. And I've never put this together, but the two spectrums is like, you've got your UV, your blue light, and then you've got your sort of red and yellow lights, right? So what's the sun in the sky? You have a blue sky, which is the blue light spectrum, which is not devoid or apart from the other side of the spectrum, which is what the sun's presenting. So the sky being blue is essentially the dielectric field of the sun presenting itself in our sky. So once the sun leaves, that's why it goes dark, because the yellow light's not there, or the white light's not there to present the opposite field.
Yeah.
So they're the same thing. They're not separate. It's just the two light spectrums. So yellow light is almost instantaneous. Blue light is a bit slower, which is why you see it change from the night sky at dawn into blue. It's because as the light's coming through, the two spectrums show.
Yeah. Well, this is it. So with all of these people, like I said, you saw how many links I dropped in there this morning of different videos that I'd watched. And if you've got the mind to deal with the physics of it and the interest, I recommend going and seeing the videos. There's some really good information. Each one contains some really good pieces of information. It doesn't mean that each theory that is presented is entirely correct. It doesn't mean that each one of these things is a whole cake with icing and a cherry on top, and we've got to swallow the whole thing. But they're presenting information that we, as laymen, can look at and go, okay, well, we're seeing this, we're seeing this, and this. This makes a lot more sense than what they're trying to sell us. The quintessential what they're trying to sell us, with global warming and all these other things. So I just keep trying to get people to be open to looking at some of this stuff, to look at some of this information. And funnily enough, my kids sat down and we watched, like I said, we watched The Day After Tomorrow tonight. We watched The Day After Tomorrow tonight. It was more upsetting to my kids than anything I've ever watched with them. I was really, really quite surprised because, I mean, my kids will sit down and watch a zombie movie and laugh and laugh and laugh. They think it's hysterical. But they watched this movie, and my eldest and my youngest were the two that were the most affected by it. And Quinlan couldn't explain why. She couldn't even explain to me, articulate why she found it so upsetting. She was in tears through the whole movie, like literally through the whole entire movie watching it. And I kept saying to her, I'll turn it off. Let's just turn. No, she was like, no, I want to watch. I want to see how this, I want to watch the movie. Oh, okay. It was upsetting. And it was upsetting from a place of, and it is, for most people, of these are the kind of events that could very well be playing out. And a lot of people don't want to look at that. They do not want to look at that. And that's a personal choice everyone has to make, obviously. Like I said, it doesn't mean that it's fact. It doesn't mean that it is. But if we're going to look at stuff and put all the theories on the table, we have to put all the theories on the table. If we're going to look at the information, we have to look at all the information. We can't just chuck aside the information that is uncomfortable, or the information that goes against our belief structure, or the information that we don't particularly like or want to look at. You've got to throw it all on. It's cold here, so everyone's like all bundled up nice and warm. So yeah, I know. Maybe that is a movie we should watch. Well, here's the thing. One of the videos that I watched so many fucking videos today. I can't remember which one it was. I put his timestamp in. I think it was Suspicious Observers, the very last video that I posted today. In the last 2 minutes of the video, it's like a 20-minute video. In the last 2 minutes of the video, he talked about a book that was written about a military guy who was up in the Arctic, and he had to do all these kind of the work in the Arctic and how hard it was, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, by the way, speaking of Arctic, did you hear that there were 2 or at least 1 mystery death in the Antarctic space where they have this time?
Yep.
Sorry for interrupting you.
Yep.
I just thought that was interesting to mention.
Oh, for sure. Right, what was I just saying? Bossy, seriously.
Dude wrote a book about the Antarctic real hard.
Okay, and so the book is all very the military journal of what's going on, and then in the middle of there's 4 chapters that are completely out of fucking place with the entire book. And it's talking about the geological stuff and the pole shifting and the shit that they found, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And exactly. Linda, the one by White, exactly. And it's written by the guy's son. And the guy, and it's interesting because he says that this stuff was all known by the Pentagon, or what would become the Pentagon, in the 50s. They knew all this stuff that this was being put out in this book about the pole shifting, about what they were seeing was coming. That they knew it was coming, and that NASA was then formed something ridiculous like 6 months later, after this guy got back. And that they have to tell us these pieces. And we talk about this all the time. They have to give us notice. They have to give us notice. And there's been a continuous drip of information into the public, whether it's movies like The Day After Tomorrow, and pick another one, like whether it's Volcano, whether it's pick the disaster movies, right? All the announcements we're seeing on the mainstream media, especially in the last 2 months. Every single week, there's a mainstream media outlet in one country or another talking about how the magnetic poles are going to reverse, how the grid could go down because of a CME, because of solar flare, because of a pole shift, because of an EMP blast, because of a terrorist attack. Okay? we always call it fear porn. Everyone turns around and goes, oh, there's just more fear porn. And you go like this. And you go, it's fucking fear porn. But Hollywood bullshit. But what if, again, this is how they've been dripping the information out to the public, continuously keeping this pieces dripping out to the public as a way of disclosure, so that you've already got, so we talk about programming, right? We talk about programming and the fact that TV is the #1 way to program people and the mainstream news. So if you just keep dripping these pieces in over, 20 years, which really, when did the movie Armageddon come out? When did the movie Volcano come out? Dante's Inferno, and recently San Andreas, etc. These movies drip, 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 so that basically they've already dripped it into your consciousness. It's already there.
In the late 90s.
Yeah, those were in the late 90s. So they've already. I don't believe that, Mia. I'm sorry. I don't believe that that's what they're trying to do. And I think this whole thing, are they trying to get us to create it? And this is we're on dangerous thin ice here of a belief structure that is very much in the new age. That whole new age stuff. Don't pay attention to the negative because, you need to create what you want to see, et cetera, et cetera. It is a very thin ice here. And one that God knows I didn't even see until literally about 6 months ago when I started looking at some of this stuff again. No, Fred, I'm sorry, it's not. That's what I'm saying. Are they trying to get us to create it? That is then giving the blame to us, saying, oh, well, you manifested this. You created
No, I'm not going to get in a contradictory because I want to let you finish your rant. Just want to point out there is a difference when I talk about manufacturing consent. It's a form of. It's completely different from the new age saying like, oh, they need our consent. Don't look at anything. No, we have to look at everything. We have to look at the pieces. We have to talk about it. And I'll let you finish. But I do believe they do need some consciousnesses to be able to unfold certain events for certain events to unfold. And I don't think they're inevitable.
You could absolutely be right. Listen, Brianna, you could be hold on, Bossy. You could be 100% right on that. Here's the place where I sit right now. You could be 100% right on that, but what if you're not?
Well, I know
hold on, Bossy. Hold on, Bossy. I love you. Just stop. Give me a second. I went through this. Some of you will maybe even remember the shows. There's certain people, we had this pretty much exact same conversation. And a bunch of people spoke up and were like, oh, well, I don't give consent to that, and I'm not going to manifest that into my reality, and it will never happen because my intent is such that it will never happen, and da-da-da-da-da. You know what happened? Yeah, it fucking happened. And those people got stuck with their pants down because they're manufactured, at a very local level.
Local events will happen. They do happen. Will happen.
Okay, now hold on. Y'all are missing a big piece here. So let me fill it in. It matters not what you speak out obviously has power without a doubt. But if you're speaking out things that don't line up with who you are, then that's going to default. And that's going to bring into your experience the very thing that you said would not happen because you cannot bullshit yourself.
You know what, Dawn? You are right about that because fear brings that to you. Okay?
Well,
so
that's it, though.
You fear will come at you. But one thing I want to inject here is when people are going, oh, they need consent, they need our consent, and we are the ones doing it, guess what's happening? Hey, we're being put into the blame once again, right? oh, we're causing everything, all these problems. Oh my God, we are the problem. No, we're not the problem.
That's the thin ice I'm talking about. Exactly what JC talking about here. Dawn, I hear what you're saying, and I hear what JC is saying and what Fred is saying. What I'm talking about, it is a very thin line. It is a very thin line, and we're talking about language, okay? Going back to what Ben said before, it's about language, because we can say certain things. JC can say what she just said. Penny can just say what she just said and say these things, and someone else is going to hear it completely differently. Dawn, you can say what you're going to say, because I interpret how you're going to say, because I've been friends with you for years. So I speak your language, and I fully get what you're saying. But someone else is going to hear that, and they're going to interpret it differently. And this is what I'm talking about. These things are a very thin line where having the conversation can be very tough to make sure that everyone is on the same page. Yes, Ben, before you explode.
Well, the other side of it is always context. It's always context. Context, 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 context. If we are going into a solar minimum, and a grand solar minimum at that, there are energies here that have not necessarily been present for a very long time.
Yes.
So I go back to my new heliobiology, and even in this they show in solar maximums, plant growth increases dramatically, right? Which means it decreases in the minimum. However, animals increase in the minimum and decrease in the maximum in size. We also have noticed that the Renaissance happened in a minimum, and so did the 1920s sort of industrial revolutions happened in a minimum. So there's to each wave there is an ebb and flow. See, we're only shown in the linear format that one line. There's always the other one coming through carrying what it carries. And that's the one that's always negated. So there's always context that has to be taken in. It's like, the influences of a lot of the planets cosmologically and with what's going on, it's knowing all of those things, the effects that it has on genetics and DNA. And, you know, I mean, I'll mention just quickly that there's been tests done on things like fish roe, insemination, and then they're treated with static frequency, right? Same with plants and the seeds, the plants grown from the seeds, and the fish that hatch from the eggs treated in this way created essentially genetics that they thought was extinct. So the genetics in the biology of both the plant, or the flora and the fauna, reverted back because of a charge, which is starting to present the thought form that actual charge in and of itself is what directs biology and how. It's not just procreation and water and soil and all these sorts of things. Like plants will flower when they want to goddamn well flower.
Exactly. Aren't you talking about the experiment where they took like seeds from corn or fertilized eggs from what do you call it?
Trouts.
They're trouts or stuff like that, and they could literally go a step back to I don't want to call it a step back, to go to a level where like that fish turned into a bigger one version, more ferocious from like the Stone Ages type, and where you had like that corn growing bigger ears and maybe another one instead of the 2 or 3 or 4 it normally grows, right?
Pretty much. And see, what would then be interesting would actually be to look at the chemical breakdown of those plants. So whether, like, let's say in the fish, the omegas were higher, they had different this, that, and the other, and fats and lipids available. And the same with the corns, whether the fructose had changed, whether the starch counts had lowered, and all these sorts of things, which would then show that if they had turned into something that was older, an older variant,
but it was more like a version. difference, right? Like
well, what was said on the fish was actually they turned into a fish that they thought was extinct. So,
yes, exactly. But hang
right.
on. What I mean is, like, you have like your phone now. You have your phone specifics, and it's set. The operating system is set for your phone.
You
hang on,
can't look at it like that. You
yeah,
can't
yeah.
look at it like that.
But what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say, or put into words, is you didn't roll back into an older evolutionary form, but you actually rolled back a version, so to speak, right? Like from
I would
2.0, you're gone back to 1.0, and not like
I
1.5.
I would potentially look at it as reverse, that the thing is reverting back to a more prime state, a stronger state,
Yes,
a more
yes,
influential state, as opposed to a derivative state thereof.
Okay, so for example, one of the things Ben mentioned is the fish road they took were from a fish farm, i.e. genetically manipulated fish that have been genetically manipulated to be what?
And bearing in mind that genetic manipulation can be crossbreeding, cross-pollination, all that kind of stuff. It's not just in a lab cutting RNA. This is what it's not so much charge, it's a static frequency. So it hasn't been converted to like electrical charge per se. So
it's based on frequency.
Yes. But remembering that frequency is another word for frequency is wavelength.
Yeah.
Or color spectrum, or any of those sorts of things. So, like I say, you can't separate. It's like the sun and the blue sky are one and the same. They're not two different things. It might be our atmosphere presenting the blue, but that's the atmosphere presenting the blue as part of the yellow light that's actually still coming through as well. They're not two separate things. So when it comes to like things like you've got energy that can then be converted into other things. So energy can become electricity. Energy can become like a plant or a tree or an animal. That they're conversions of energy from its original format.
Well, I asked because, we've seen all this lightning going off around the world. We're seeing the plasma discharges and things like that. And I just have to wonder if that is not spawning a new generation.
Well, it's all about charge and it's all about charge and discharge. So it's different energies coming in, perhaps, but it could also be the same energies coming in more, but more frequently because of something else that's going on. This is what I'm getting at is like the when you look at Goethe and his, I guess for lack of better terminology, his chromatographic work and colors, you find that his stuff, because he correlates it to plants and the different aspects of them and what they're showing, and then that's correlated back to other things. So you've got cosmological botany, where certain plants show certain planetary have planetary symbolism, I guess, inside those plants, and those plants are directly correlated to those planets. So they flower when the planet is in its prime, charged by the sun, and it's coming down.
Well, Ben, this is kind of interesting because think about, when you bring a baby home, right, for the first time, what color room are you putting them into?
Yep.
That could actually define who they are going to become.
Well, part of their biology, yes. See, but that's where consciousness comes into play. So consciousness always has a choice. So the vessel is one part of it, which is the biology, and it shows and tells you what's going on with the universe, in your aches and pains and your thought forms and your feelings and your emotions and stuff like that. And then we go and attach that to external events as opposed to an energy format coming or going. So it gets to a point where like it's all indivisible in my eyes. It's like if you look at it as a filter where universe is, or the center of universe, let's say, is out there somewhere or in here somewhere. It doesn't really matter. It's just a fractal filter presenting that stuff. So in space, you can't necessarily see light unless it has something to bounce off of. It doesn't mean that light's not there, because light also has a wavelength.
Yeah, it just
Right.
means your sensory organs don't pick up the light as it is. Like you see a laser pointer through a night vision goggle, right? You see the ray itself, and you see
Yep.
the spot where it ends.
Yeah.
But with your naked eye, you don't see it.
Exactly. Yeah. This is exactly it. And sort of what I'm sort of looking at now is the aspects of certain things were not only not visible by the eyes, they were actually unattainable by the mind because they weren't present.
Yep. And that goes to the whole thing of we only see so little of the spectrum and hear so little of the spectrum.
So little of the spectrum is potentially not on offer.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
I mean,
So-
isn't it
So when
on
you're
offer?
when you
I mean,
when
it
you
is
can see
on
some of
offer,
them.
but you can't see it.
Yeah, we can't see it. Now, here's the interesting thing. Now, guys, I dropped, so I didn't get to I was trying to be fancy and open another window up and actually pull a link over about Krakatoa. It just erupted again today, and it crashed everything. So I disappeared for a few moments. The one thing I wanted to go back with the whole thing of what Ben was talking about, and we got into this conversation last night about the fish and putting the electricity, et cetera, almost like resetting them. Okay. In a way, you can say that when they were reset, they became bigger and stronger. Is that perhaps part of the, to coin a term, the energetic preparation that can come through on something like this? Like, these are one of the things that I look at is like, okay, so for example, I was talking to Ben, and you'll hear it when I put the recording out tomorrow. When the Chinese sent all the seeds into space, this was like back in the 90s, I believe, and exposed them to solar radiation, etc., brought them back down to Earth, and when they grew them, they had like zucchinis that were like 2 foot long and pumpkins that were just like, whoa, right? Because of all these solar rays. If, and this is just me hypothesizing, if we've been genetically altered, which, let's face it, over the last 50 years anyway, with vaccines, with all these various pesticides, fluoride, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is some of this energetic stuff that's happening, again, coining the term energetic stuff, excuse the pun, a way of resetting our genetics, our DNA, back to, as Bossy said, not necessarily back to the beginning, but back to the beginning of that version.
We've got to be careful with this. See, this is where the communication and dialogue side. So, see, and I'll go with the fish thing, and Bassie, this is it. So we can go, they turned like more ferocious, stronger, more primal, and we could market that via CNN or Fox or something like that. Or we could talk to a biologist, and they might be like like I was saying, is like they became a stronger, more resilient. That they weren't affected by viruses and stuff so much. Their yield was higher. They became a better fish, and that comes down to marketing and dialogue.
Marketing.
So like Anne was just saying, is that what we're going through? And I would say for sure, without an actual doubt. But it's been going on our whole lives.
Yeah.
Since the day we were born and came here, right? And fucking materialized
Spawned
into
here.
forms. Yeah.
Yeah, spawned.
We have always been that thing. We've always been changing. We have forever been changing. Adapting, mutating, all these different words, they basically mean the same freaking thing. Evolution, you could change evolution with mutation. I mean, there's the aspects. I think I said to Dee and Anne in our conversation. I read this book quite a few years ago called The Bone Readers, and it was a bunch of anthropologists that were studying Australia, and from what the context of the books is written, they were trying to prove that the First Nation Aborigines here in Australia, because of their farming practices with fire, was what killed out the megafauna in Australia. So the megafauna in Australia consisted of like 3 meter tall kangaroos, wombats the size of, I guess, about like hippopotamus sort of size. They had some huge goddamn things. And then they all sort of, I don't know if there was a giant platypus, Jules, but you can prove me completely wrong, and I'd love to see it. But the platypus may have come about because of some of these events, right? It's like you look at scientists and they were like, "Hey, you guys just sewed a duck to a beaver to a something else to a something else that's not
with
real."
With a poisonous claw to boot.
However, the energy format in Australia, receiving the energy format from universe, very well did make that thing. It made that thing, right? That's what it was. It wasn't necessarily a beaver was like, oh, I'd way rather a bill, and then over thousands of years, like willed a bill into existence. But that's the exact potential. Is like, look at the tests that they do with growing plants next to Wi-Fi routers, things like that. You look at Emoto's work with water crystals, and everyone goes, "Oh, intention." But what if it's radionics? And I'm just going to just to split it, which it doesn't mean that intention's not involved, because you have to have intent to establish and tune an experiment or whatever. So the thought process is in there. Right, but radionics is setting up a field, essentially tuning that to do what it is, and then sort of going away. So there's multiple things depending on how it's marketed. It can fit different ruses and
we get into the language thing again, because again you get into a language thing.
Not only the language, but law as well.
Yeah, but laws. What's a law? And comprehension of stuff. Because we perceive things differently. And the whole Emoto thing is a joke, because in our house, when the first time I heard about the Emoto stuff, I guess it was about 2009, and I had a copy of the book, and I'm reading it, and we got into, there was a bunch of videos that came out at the time, people analyzing it, tearing it apart, etc. And there was a couple of things that came out. And it was like, basically, the water crystals that were played beautiful classical music were beautiful, etc. And that the water crystals that were played heavy metal turned out ugly and misformed and misshapen looking. And Nick brought up the really good thing and said, yeah, okay, but wait a second. If the person who's running the test loves classical music and hates heavy metal, that is going to, if you're going to use this whole thing about intent, etc., and the emotional field, that is going to change the outcome of the experiment. Well, you can't run an experiment and say it's just the music if you've got a person involved who may like or dislike the music being played.
So take it a step further. You've already programmed the field. If you already dislike the music, that you've already tuned it. You've already done that.
Exactly. It's
so like what
before the music is even played.
Yeah.
Before the music is even turned on for the crystals or the plants or anything else, you've already tuned that field with a wave, a frequency wave, which isn't your emotional input into it is a frequency. We are energetic beings.
One of the main, well, I shouldn't say one of, the main process in alchemy is when you are about to do a process, you actually meditate on it, and you astrally go and do the entire experiment from row to go, because you might trip over something and you might leave something out. So you go through the whole thing before you even do it. So you've programmed the field. And
I'd like to one interruption of 1 second. Everything you said about the water, the music, the actual change being done by the person, then meditating before, ties to what I was trying to say.
No,
It is creative. You are influencing the field. We absolutely are influencing the field.
I would agree, but the way I would say it, Fred, is by saying you're in the field. You're not influencing it, you're falling into it. So you're being the field, and that's how it works. When you're out of the field, that's where the shit happens, because you're not on track. When you come back on track, it flows because you're in the field.
In the flow then. But then one day, one of the deep immersions, next time, would be retaking everything you three, and you and Danny, and running it, moving the perspective 180 also, and looking at it through, okay, this is a construct perspective, because it will change some elements. It won't change the air quote physics of it. It won't change the way it works and responds, because you've observed all that and you've got it. Damn right.
Yep.
But it may change the perspective of, all the shit that's been put out, because we are swimming in a sea of bullshit information, which is one of the things Danny tries to do every week, is get us out of that, trying to break surface between that.
But see, that's one of the things, right? So you've got your Dollards, you've got your Teslas, you've got your Maxwells, you've got your Wallace Thornhills, you've got all these people, and they're not only presenting alternative theories. The names that I just mentioned were also putting up on offer their devices to prove those theories. And yet anyone who talks, even Velikovsky, like you've got to remember that, like, there's some big shit that he predicted that has become complete and utter fact. Fact that changes everything that has been dictated about the way that the solar system and our solar system works and was created. Everything. But we still keep on not going. That's why I like to always sit there and go, now, if we live in Tesla and Maxwell and Keeley and world, which is where we kind of want to be, at least on, you know what I mean? It's like when you hear someone say, if Tesla was alive today and he saw the state of things, he'd die, because it's not the way it's supposed to be. So that manipulation's there, but it's always up to us regardless, and all that information is presented, which is why I sit here so sort of confidently being like, there is so much good shit going on right down to the grand solar minimum, because what it does is it gives validity to a lot of things that have been left from the past and shared that have been absolutely sideswiped and fucking swept under the rug. Yeah. So the thing is there's so much going on, so very much that we sort of have to sort of almost shake off the chrysalis of like fucking fake news and start focusing on like sort of the factual grasp that we can actually have.
Hey,
right?
Ben, you said something very interesting. Okay, now you said who was the writer you were just talking about that has made all this big change now?
Velikovsky?
Yeah. Now, hold on. He had written that how long ago, Ben?
In the 50s.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, though, now it's changing things. Why is it changing things? Because now we observe or we acknowledge it. Okay? And so could that be what is changing? What is making the change? Hold on, because if just one
or is it just transparency that the moment is come that now that this information is finally being given the light of day?
Yeah, but how do we figure that out? Because there again, Brianna could be right, or you could be right, Ben could be right. It's
exactly
what is it that catalyst? It's just like
well, that's where the movie that Dee's talking about is so scary.
Yeah,
yes,
but
exactly.
It's like, okay, just like what we were talking about earlier, okay, and people like flat Earth, and they get sucked into this narrative, right? One word, if it pings just right, it tweaks their perspective, right? And then they can start coming out of that narrative.
Sometimes.
And it doesn't take a lot. Usually it is just one word. Just like one word can put us into the brainwashing trance, right?
Yep.
And one word can bring us out. And so when we start looking at this, was it Velikovsky? Was it his? Did he see it? And then all of a sudden now we're seeing it and we're making it bigger and we're making it into that possibility.
Okay, okay, hold on.
Yeah, so because there's so many.
Okay, so I'm going to go put this right back to the same thing that I said just a little bit ago. You could be absolutely right. You could be absolutely right. Or it doesn't work that way. Because the fact of the matter is, we don't know. So for me, and I can only go from my own personal perspective, right? So Brianna, exactly what you were saying, except that, again, the whole concept, the theory that we've discussed, that this is a construct, that we are in a realm, a construct, a hologram, however you want to define that, okay, is a theory. It's only a theory, right? So hold on, just let me finish. So any one of these theories could be correct or might not be correct. So I have to look at this now moment. And I'm going to be really, really blunt here. For me, I'm not willing to bet on the lives of myself and my family to say, oh, it's this way. Because I know that I don't know. I know that I don't know. So exactly. I'm not willing to. So,
person. You're only one person. So
and I can, exactly, and I can only speak for myself, right? So all I'm saying is this. What I'm saying is, and okay, I'm going back. I'm going to go right back because we're talking about language, right? My biggest concern I have with all the shit that I've been studying is that the world is in upheaval. Right now, the world is in upheaval, whether we want to look at it from the geological to the astrological to the political to the financial to the fucking pick an O, right?
But
everything.
Hold
on, Earl. Everything is in upheaval. Now I am going to finish my sentence this time. I'm not letting anyone cut me off. That's right. You laugh, Ben. It is an upheaval. So, for me personally, I continuously worry, and I don't think you guys even comprehend how much I worry, because I do, about all the people, all the unfuckers out there, all the other people who I'm friends with, who I know, who literally are not preppers, who are not doing jack shit to try and make sure that their families are okay. Because for me, in my perspective, my own personal perspective, I'm watching what's going on in this reality, in this moment right now. and every fiber of my being is screaming, shit is happening, shit is going down. You need to be prepared to do whatever you need to do to look after your family and, in some cases, my friends. So that's where my concern comes from. And this is why when we get into these conversations, like this, I continuously go back to people and I say, we throw all the theories on the table. Yes, it might be a realm. Maybe it's a flat plane. Maybe it's a globe. Maybe it's in Newtonian physics. Maybe it's an electric universe. Maybe it's a fucking holographic, that we're all living in a hologram. Maybe none of this is fucking real, and I'm locked up in an insane asylum, and I'm jacked out on fucking hallucinogenic drugs. And you're all figments of my imagination.
Well, wasn't that a DS9 episode?
Okay, but regardless, in this moment now, I worry. I worry about all my friends. I worry about my family. I worry about all these people. Not fear. It's not about fear. So that's why I keep coming back to this kind of stuff and saying, I want people to look at this from a perspective that is really, really open, in the fact of, we don't know. We just don't. If we don't get caught up in the narratives, and we can be able to put the pieces openly on the table and look at them. And I have my own biases. You guys know that. I have got my own biases that I deal with on a daily basis. But if we can throw the narratives on throw out the narratives and put the stuff on the table and look at it openly and take it all in. That's the only point of what I'm trying to take. And remember that all these things we're discussing are theories and unproven, because nobody knows.
Most of them are. That's the thing. Most of them are. Some have been proven. Something.
Yeah,
right? So
that's narratives. What I'm saying, Ben, is I'm talking about the entire narrative. No, you're absolutely right. Pieces of this have been concretely proven.
And that's the part. See, that's the other side of it. So we can't say we know nothing. We know something.
No, we do.
And the only place that I guess any surety that anyone in their own individual person can have is knowing. So there's knowing and then there's not knowing. Yeah. So in the not knowing, you have to be open, but in the knowing, you have to be also open to be able to discuss. So like, I think it was, we were talking about Velikovsky, right?
Yeah.
And so with his stuff, Velikovsky wasn't a scientist that was like, oh, I'm going to come up with a theory. He was like, oh, there's some weird shit going on. And he started actually studying history and speaking to a lot of ancient cultures and studying a lot of ancient culture stuff. And he went, oh, they're telling us a story. So that's what Velikovsky did. And then from that, what he then did was he went and started looking at the science to try and figure out whether he could prove his postulations. So when he said Venus is going to be way hotter in atmosphere than the Earth, that was actually based off the fact that it was a newer component to the solar system. Yeah. And everyone was like, whatever. And I can't remember, but, you know, reasonably recently, it was proven that it was way hotter, and they were like, that can't happen. That shouldn't happen.
Yep.
So there are things that are proven fact. That doesn't mean that Venus was ejected from Jupiter. The reason he said that was because that's what the Greeks said. That's what the Babylonians said. Exactly. That's what the Mesopotamians said. That's what the originals
And that's what I mean by about narratives. That's the stuff that I talk about narratives, right?
And I mean, you have even those ancient American cultures that talk to you about the sun god that comes in like a snake, right? That drags a tail, and that is relatively new. And I'm sorry for interrupting and going a little bit back, but remember that one rant I had about meme magic, about things that becoming real that are memes. I mean, those things don't have to scare you at all or anything, right? It is just the energy of time, right? Like like Ben said, the sun is farting literally out some frequency, and you are somehow adapting to it. That is how these or some of these memes become reality, right? Like there is some energy aspect to it. And see, the only thing of literature I think is actually real from space aliens or our, you know, like the whole subject, you know, like there were people that telling us, you know, if you want to heal without using doctors, use your isolation chamber, you know, like the chamber you go into where you get your hallucinations just because you're isolated from reality. Interject some colors, interject some sound, pick the sound and the color of stuff that literally complementing itself, right? Like,
can I add to that, Bessie?
Yeah, go ahead, dude.
You're already in an isolation chamber with colors and frequencies being presented to you on a daily basis.
I know.
See, and this is
that's
the
scary thing.
But it's not scary at all. It's fucking beautiful.
Yeah, I know. It's beautiful and it's scary.
This is this whole aspect, right? We're prepping ourselves because much the same with radionics, the device between you and the field that you are tuning is just an interface. You're doing the tuning and the field is accepting it. So,
you know,
like all these different things like isolation chambers and take your minerals and this, that, the other and da-da-da-da-da. It's like your body does all those things. There is no external mineral that your body doesn't make. So your isolation chamber is doing all of that. Like, and D, I'm just going to fucking do this and I'm just going to run with it for a second. Hang on, Bessie. Hang on. Let me get this out, right? What is air? Air is water. It is water vapor because you only see water once it has started coalescing around a particulate, right? So water is everywhere. We breathe water. That air is 70% nitrogen. In gas form, your lungs are a vacuum. When gaseous nitrogen goes into a vacuum, it turns into liquid nitrogen. If our air is 70% more nitrogen and only, I think it's a balance of about 20% oxygen, Zeke, stop. The nitrogen is what we really breathe. Water with lots of nitrogen. What happens when we cryogenically freeze things? Or we freeze dry things, we pour liquid nitrogen onto them and it evaporates everything off. It takes all the oils and the water out and you're left with the basis of the plant. So your lungs are breathing in, condensing nitrogen and splitting all those minerals and all that stuff, but your body's creating it. It's just there in energy form, but the charge is what makes those things.
Yeah.
So all the devices, all the things that we have are merely interfaces that are continually not allowing us to realize that we're already in the isolation chamber in our individual thing, which is why we're fucked up and uncomfortable, because the same as going in that isolation chamber, you're alone trying to work shit out.
No, hang on. The problem with the isolation chamber is you cannot shut out the outside world, right? That's why they also suggested the idea to have your own Faraday cage around your isolation chamber.
I totally agree. However, you are all of those things. So we can keep building them, but until we all realize that we have all of that present, it's no good.
Exactly. I mean, it's like taking a snake, a poisonous snake, under the microscope. You think, I mean, so God, where does the snake get the poison from, right? The snake gets the poison from eating stuff and turning the stuff it ate into the right minerals, the right position to have the poison going, right? Like, well, the snake.
Take it a step further. Your body is what turns the snake's enzymes into it. So the snake's not poisoning you. Your body is.
Exactly. That's where I try to go. You know, the snake is eating a fucking squirrel. The squirrel is not poisonous at all, but it takes the stuff and turns it into the stuff it is programmed to from the vibration or whatever it's going through, and turns all these molecules into a poisonous thing to ingest into a host or whatever to eat it. After a point, right? Like, it's only taking matter and it's turning it into the right perspective. And see, there's where I wanted to go, especially about the karma shit and stuff like that. You know, like, if you knew my family, 10 years ago, I told my aunt, my cousin, do not fear the possibilities your kids could go through, because the possibilities you fear literally carve out the way your sons might go through, right? Like, and I had this conversation with my aunt the other day because she literally invited herself over Christmas, and she was like, why would you close your windows when you go outside? Like, yeah, didn't you look out the window? And she said, yeah, I see that, but still, why would you close your window? You would invite the burglar. And I said, didn't you look out the window? You're literally inviting the burglar with your window open. So what the fuck are you talking about? You know, like these I don't know how to call it. You know, if some people are slow to pick up the stuff that happened like a few years ago to pick up now, or are these people actually late to pick up the stuff that's happening right now? See, so the whole idea about getting your isolation chamber to be on your own, you know, like to be isolated from the outside, to choose the sounds that complement the light, right? Like, yeah, you have your problems health-wise, but at some point, yeah, I know it sounds too awfully...
No. I totally agree with everything you're saying, but I still will stick with my original stipulations. You're already there. You're already there. Like, you already have the ability to tune in, tune out. You already, and that's the whole thing is while you're out and about, it's to be that isolation chamber. So you can observe. That's what I'm getting at. Is like every single device that we have is just an interface between you and something else, and the something else is already there. It's like I remember saying to the originaries here in Australia, I was like, nothing ever got stolen. Right? And this is a touchy subject because the country's still there. There's this edifice that was created over it, a name, a nation, whatever it is, and that's what we've all bought into. But country's still there.
Yeah,
the earth is still there, and we're sitting here debating about politics and da-da-da, and she's going and there has been keys left. Like everything's open to debate if you want to debate it, but if we want to discuss stuff, there are certain concrete foundational things that are there.
Yeah, it's like the whole idea of going to Mars and, oh my God, we don't have the resources to do it. But no, we do have the resources. We have the manpower. We have the brains. We can do all of that. But the only thing that is missing is funny paper, right?
But
funny colored paper.
Well, no, just the premise. Just the premise.
But that's just
all
an
marketing.
excuse. That's exactly, that's marketing. And that's the excuse. And it's so funny because, again, something just came by my way today, again, talking about the fact of like, oh, you know, they try to tell us that the whole world is so overpopulated, and someone worked out the math, and not that I'd want to live in Alaska, but that basically you could fit the entire population of the world into Alaska, give them all a 2,000 square foot house, lined up in rows with a nice little garden and a yard and still have X many thousand square kilometers left over. There is
and
no
the funny thing,
overpopulation. It's marketing.
And the funny thing about that exact example is I heard that on something else like Joe Rogan, I think it was, right? And they were talking about Texas, same thing. I think Queensland and Australia, same thing. About a quarter acre or an eighth of an acre, which, by the way, of a quarter of an acre, a family can easily grow enough food. Easily. So anyone, so when we use places like, let's say Alaska, people will sit there going, it's too fucking cold and it's too da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, hang on, but we're smart motherfuckers. And the earth is a smart motherfucker. And that thing has a stagnant temperature at a certain depth. And we can build greenhouses and we can this, that, the other. And it's like, it can all be done. We can grow food everywhere, anywhere. There is no lack. It's the mentality.
There is no lack of things that are real. Everything that is real, there is no lack of it. It is there is an abundance. The things that are fake, i.e. money, that's all hoarded up and pulled away, right? Because it's all fake anyways. So therefore there is nothing substantial to it. It's just fucking, you might as well just print monopoly money. Here, I'm going to write an IOU on my cigarette papers and we'll call that money. Right? But everything that's real is abundant, and it can be abundant. It's about the marketing.
Well, everything is
narrative.
Potential.
Everything is potential. Yeah.
And in that place, it can go either way. See, there's no ownership in potential. It's what's done with the potential.
Yeah.
And that's all we have.
I hate to say it should be horrible, but it's how it's managed. How do you manage the potential? What we have right now is a closed system that is completely, deliberately mismanaged. Therefore, there is not, the crops don't grow properly. There's not, the fresh water has become polluted. The fish are not spawning, blah, blah, blah. Pick an area where they fucked nature up completely and utterly. It is through mismanagement. It is through not working with the potential, not working with that potential.
Mismanagement, greed, lust for power. Yeah.
Just think about time. At some point, the Roman Empire couldn't do without Egypt, because Egypt was the corn chamber, right? At some part, even the whole world couldn't do without Russia, because Russia at some point became the whole corn chamber, right? So you don't have the excuses. You only have the excuses of mismanagement, and that is the real point. Mismanagement.
Well, there's mismanagement, and then there's also the potential of them knowing something that we're only just getting up to.
Exactly.
Yes. So we got into this a little bit. I was interviewed by Sarah Westall last week, and the interview, she just made it public today. So I put the link in the Unfuckers, and I put it on my Facebook. I'll put the link in here with the archive that goes along with this video. We talked about some of this stuff. Let's talk about the potential. Let's talk about, for example, some of the stuff that we got into, and I have to really dial it back because her audience is much more mainstream. They're not way the fuck out here in left field like all of us Unfuckers are, right? Like they haven't been down these rabbit holes before. So I had to kind of reel it in and keep it a little more straightforward. We have these things that are going on. Things are becoming clear now, becoming transparent. But there is a skew going on as well, and that's what I was talking about with her, is to talk about the fact that we're like, okay, we know the mainstream media fucking lies out their teeth every single day on every single subject because they're paid to push whatever the agenda is by their ownership, by their controllers. So, but the same thing's going on in the alternative media, and it's like I said, there's some shit that's going on now that we have to look at and reanalyze again, right? We have to reanalyze openly what is actually going on. And chemtrails is one of those prime examples. And as much as everyone wants to burn me at the stake every single time I bring up this question in the last couple of months, I have to say it. What if they're putting the chemtrails up there because they know shit's coming in right now? I mean, solar rays, cosmic rays, massive amounts of solar radiation are bombarding the planet. So is that why they're doing the chemtrails? And why they're doing it secretly? Because they can't tell the public of what's actually coming through the atmosphere.
Why would they be going through so much trouble then to install 5G everywhere?
We don't know.
I know we don't know.
But hang on.
I don't know. Maybe look over here while we do this over there.
Jane, sorry to interrupt you, but hang on.
No problem.
The whole game changes for you if your own chancellor of the country tells you literally, oh yeah, we didn't inform you, but we were doing these things, we were participating in these things because of global warming, you know, like people.
Which is the lie, right? But exactly. But that is the bullshit lie. Don't fall for the narrative. And it's like I keep saying, I honestly don't think we're going to see any kind of fucking disclosure from any talking heads. And I'm talking disclosure as in president gets up at the podium and goes, I have an announcement to make. This is what's going on. The disclosure is coming out. The disclosure is continuous. We're seeing articles coming out from NASA, from scientists, talking about the cosmic ray bombardment, talking about the radiation levels going up, the UVC, UVB, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to spin doctor it always to go under their agenda that's already in public, that they've already programmed the public into. Right? So this is what I'm saying. That doesn't necessarily mean that there is a evil, nefarious reason for chemtrails. That they're deliberately, because like I keep saying, I keep going back to this whole thing going, if you're going to try and kill off the population, chemtrails is a fucking stupid, expensive way to do it. There's a fucking lot cheaper ways and easier.
They're already putting fluoride and chlorine in your fucking water. If they really wanted to fucking actually like fucking decimate you, come on.
Little arsenic, here, have some cyanide, boom, that takes care of the problem.
Yeah.
I'll go back to sort of what I was saying before. That movie that you're talking about, dude, is that the one with Keanu Reeves in it?
No, that's the one about basically they don't call it pole flip. Their narrative is the fact that it's all global warming that instantly caused this to happen, which is bullshit.
So there's that movie with fucking Keanu Reeves, who's the alien who comes down. He's got the Sentinel. I can't remember the name of it.
Oh,
Day After Tomorrow.
That's the one. So in that, right?
Yeah, Dennis Quaid is in this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Humanity gets judged, and it's like, right, fucking game over. We're annihilating you. And it's until tipping point. And it seems to be until tipping point, anything shifts. That I guess, if there is a scary thing, that's the scary thing, is that we can bicker and fight or debate all this political stuff. We can, from climate change to fossil fuels and da-da-da-da-da.
Pick a subject.
One, how's it actually affecting you? Yep. And two, how's it actually affecting the planet?
Yeah.
Right? Because where you are is where you'll see it. So if you're in a city, you're going to probably notice heaps of smog and stuff like that. If you're out where I am, I'm sitting here going, oh, the sun's still kind of, it's drifted slightly. I'm not noticing all this weird shit with my animals and some of the plants and stuff like that. But, yesterday I went to go clear out so that the waterfall, one of our sources of water, could keep going, and it's dry. The waterfall stopped running in our back paddock. So I haven't seen that in 2 years. It hasn't stopped. So that one stopped, which is like, okay, that's interesting.
That's bizarre.
Hang on. hang on, Ben. The universe is not literally punishing you for using fossil fuels to literally exactly to have your growth or your farming getting in, right? Like universe is not telling you, oh my god, you're using fossil fuels, you're gonna have to suffer, right?
No.
Universe is literally telling to you, okay, I see where you are, I see the options that you have. This is the only option that you have right now to get all the harvest in, to actually make a little bit plus to get over, right? I mean, like,
but that's not necessarily true.
Hang on 1 second. You can say, like, you can get all the harvest in through natural sources like solar or wind or tide, energy consumption. But when it gets to the rough and to the outback, so to speak, you need diesel, you need fuel, you need stuff to make your.
I don't know where you're going with this.
No,
I'm sorry,
no,
I don't understand where you're going with this.
Neither do I.
Because I was going to say, Bessie, all I was getting at is like, so out here, it's a little bit harder for me to be like, pollution, rah, 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 rah. However, in the city, it's in your face. So you want disclosure,
Yeah, exactly.
It's there. That's your disclosure. The smog, the fucking pollution, that's disclosure. That's something going, maybe this isn't the best way to do things. What people aren't necessarily doing, and it's not helped by the system itself, but is going, well, actually, there's these alternatives. There are these alternatives, and we're not going to do anything. What we do is we wait until it's fucking Macron's about to let everyone into everywhere, and then someone puts on a yellow vest and goes, fuck that shit.
We
let it get to that point.
I get where you're going through, and I even get you, Earl. But the idea, what I mean is, like, like nature has a sort of keeping tabs on you and keeping tabs on to what you're doing, right? Like, if you own, if you have the only option to use fossil fuels to take your harvest in, well then, okay, in that kind of thing, nature says, fuck it, right? But if you take your harvest in just to make gigantic we call it profits and shit like that, maybe nature is throwing you a curveball, right?
Yeah, but
like,
but here's the thing. Now you're getting into something that sounds specifically like God, and I don't buy God for a second.
Well,
so I'm just going to throw that out.
Yeah. I don't think so much God, but it's like,
who is universe? What is universe?
Let's stop.
Yeah.
Well, universe is just a term, Fred, that I use because I don't do the God thing. I don't do that. There is a source of energy from somewhere, or somewheres. So I just label it all from somewhere.
Right, but it doesn't give. I'm with Gypsy on this. Like, it doesn't give you a rat's ass about you.
No, and that's this is one of the. Thank you, D. And that is the biggest fucking fault of humankind right now, is the ego. And as much as we sit there and we go, oh, we don't have ego, the ego is the fact that we, even as a massive collective fucking all-powerful consciousness, have say or sway over the whole of fucking universe and any of its other consciousnesses as well. That's so ego.
Yep.
We have a choice to do things really fucking awesome or really shit. At the moment, we're doing them really shit. We're doing it. Universe? Universe is pumping us full of universe.
Yeah.
We have choices.
Yeah, but hang on. If see, this is the same thing like the whole idea of meme magic. You're getting thrown in your face what you saw. Like the seeds you put in the ground.
But I see it the opposite of what you're saying. I see what you're saying is meme magic. See, see what I'm saying about perspective. What I see is from your perspective, that is a piece of that meme magic you're talking about. Because we have a different perspective.
Yeah, and what I'm sort of getting at is that once upon a time, like they didn't plant grain every year, all fucking year. They used to take like maybe 4 years off after the floods. And they didn't sit there and do all this hard labor because the floods brought all the minerals and nutrient. Like, I'm saying these guys were super fucking smart.
Yeah.
There are those other ways. We're just choosing, we as a collective,
Exactly.
I'm not saying that individually, but as a collective, if not choosing, are accepting this other way. However, like, I've spent the last, 37 years of my life not doing almost anything that the system has said.
I mean, I get all these parts, but sometimes I think, you have this universe part that literally has its own mind on its own. It doesn't care. It doesn't says who exactly. But see,
that's what I'm saying. I go back to that thing. Like, says who?
Exactly.
That the universe has a mind of its own. It says who?
Hang on. This is the same thing. Like, hang on.
It's getting to definitions. That's where we're at, because I think I get what you're saying, Bassy, and I totally know what you're saying, B. But that's the whole thing, right? Is like, if you say, who says universe doesn't have its own mind? No one's saying that, but we can't at this present time know. However, we do know that there are influences that are presenting themselves. And what I'm saying is that for at least 200 years, people have actually been writing about the exact correlations between external forces, planetary bodies, and exactly what transpires here. And the potential to use that knowledge to predict thousands of years in advance.
Yeah. Which could very well be what we talk about prophecy.
Right.
We talk about these ancient cultures have set prophecy, has set story,
and
that's them telling you what's coming in the future.
And in no way am I saying, that prophecy, because we spoke earlier about prophecies, right? And we said, like, the North American Indians. Now, we have a very valid historian, in one of our, in part of our, let's call it, advisory board, right? And he will tell you that the Hopi Indian, their oral traditions stem out of South America. So when the Hopi speak of the 40 days and 40 nights of floods and stuff like that, what these historians have done is correlated that to and this was way before any of this latest stuff about meteorites fell. They were like, well, literally, they didn't decipher between water, and there was this huge ice shelf that a massive mountain range collapsed or something to that effect, and the ice fell. And that was the Great Floods. But that came out of Mexico and South America, those stories. Those stories are older than the Hopi. So there's this correlation across the board, see? And then when you start looking at it, you're like, okay, so the Hopi got it from here and these guys got it from here. It's just the same with, like, these bone readers are sitting here going, 20, 30,000 years ago is when the fire stick farming started, and the Aborigines, because of that, may very well have wiped out the megafauna. However, 20, 30,000 years ago, you find there's some big solar minimums and some big solar maximums starting. And now we have correlation between growth and flora and fauna in each one of those scales. There's direct
and correlation between also stories. Stories that are being passed down. Yeah. There is a correlation.
So Bassy, you spoke about, like, Venus having a comet tail. So the rainbow serpent in the area that I live, in the country, like, not Australia, but the country of the peoples that I live, Gidabunarakwal, Venus was the rainbow serpent in the sky. And rainbow serpent created the mountains and the rivers and stuff like that, right? So that correlates to most of, in fact, every single thing that Velikovsky presents and looked at. So we have these correlations, but see, at that point in Velikovsky's story, it was born out of Jupiter, and in original text, it appeared in our sky. So in some of the stories, it came out of Jupiter, and they actually saw it come out of Jupiter, which would then mean that it was closer. And like I say, then that bows a whole thing on our solar system where it wasn't there. So it was free floating and had the potential. So everything's in context, but universe does universe, and we're meant to be. Otherwise, we weren't. we wouldn't be here, right?
See,
So
this is why I love to troll people. I mean, literally troll people, to tell them, I hope that universe gives you what you need and what you deserve, and not what you wish for, right? Like, yeah, I understand you to a certain degree, right? But
you get that that's what's going on every single day.
Exactly.
Like that is life. Yeah.
Exactly.
I've used the analogy for years, right? I've used the analogy for years about manifestation, about how we manifest stuff. Many of the people in this group that are sitting here right now have all had experiences where they've needed something, wanted something, and they've brought it, however you want to call it, they've manifested it to happen the way they wanted it to happen, or got what they needed to get.
Don't forget, some good, but some bad too.
And bad too, absolutely, right?
Yeah, because we think these things, or we worry, or what have you, and within a matter of time, sometimes shit does come to pass.
And so,
even though your intention wasn't behind it, sorry.
No, I get it. No, exactly. See, but it is the fine line for me. Like, there's that fine line, and God knows in this household, we've had this conversation 1,000 times. That if you're trying to manifest something and someone else is trying to manifest something different, and you can't, and what does it come down to? Oh, to which one manifests? Does it come down to more people are manifesting against you? So therefore, so if you have 50 people all trying to manifest that they're going to win the lottery this weekend, is it he who manifests the strongest? And what does that even look like? There are certain things that we can influence. There's certain things that I've always believed. That's because I'm a firm believer in that. I know that it doesn't sound like it tonight, but I am an optimist at all times. I'm a realist, but I'm an optimist. So therefore, I know that my family will never go hungry, because they never have. Because every time we got to the point where there were like pennies in the bank account and holy shit, what are we going to do next week for food? Something would always happen. Something would always take care of it. My family will always have a roof over their head. And it's because I know that. And now, again, you want to talk whether that's manifesting, whether it's fucking tomfoolery. That's what I know, right?
See?
Well, you could almost...
I know manifesting within like seconds. Like someone will say something, then bam, something happened. I've seen it.
Yeah, exactly.
So you could call that fact.
Yep. You could,
because you have just made a factual statement in the aspects of, like, I've been through some bad shit, I've had some stress and depression and fucking this and that and da. But guess what? Hi.
Still here, still going.
Right. The depression, the bad stuff was here. There were things going on, but all that shit was how I was dealing with it.
Mm-hmm. And
right.
I will.
So
also
you always come out.
Sometimes that stuff appears because there's the lesson to be learned.
Well, but all of it, that's what I'm trying to get at, right? Your life is nothing but presentations of potential. And then it's what you do with those presentations of potential. The more you know on how things are presented is going to give you more clarification and a better choice of what direction needs to be taken.
Yep.
If you're not weighing and measuring things, then you're being a blind fool.
Okay, I'm gonna make a little joke here. Do I need to get the old Secret movie back out and start watching that again?
Yeah, no.
It's a resonance factor that resonates within you, and only every one of us knows that feeling. And it's that very resonance factor that'll pull you through a situation.
Yep.
There is an external, though, too.
Yep.
Because there have been times, and many a times, in my life where I'm not manifesting. I have no clue how to go or skid or anything like that. I mean,
Yep,
I'm
that's
literally
happened to
right
me
up
too.
on a wall, and something opened, and that was not me. So there is an external,
But how do you know that's not you?
because I had no clue.
But that,
You
Yeah,
have to have
but are you just
subconscious-
you, or are you like much bigger than you? Do you know what I'm saying?
that's,
Like,
that's
Okay,
the whole
so
thing.
you're saying it could be the higher self, and I'm
your
Well,
bigger
if you
self,
wanna
your
call it-
consciousness.
But if you want to call it that, Penny, see,
but
that's
it
the thing.
feels
It
external.
is. It
And I
is.
do know what my higher self feels like. So there is an external. I'm not going to say, oh my God, and I'm sure as hell not going to pull out a fucking Bible. Okay? But there is this external. I don't know where it's coming from. It is not attached to me. I do know the difference because, oh yeah, my higher self has helped me out a lot as well.
But
This
see,
is,
then
you feel it. It is just like the universe.
Okay,
It's
so
so big.
Okay, but how about-
Sorry, I was just going to say, in separating that experience, you may lose something. So it's like when you were a kid, like I don't know about everybody here, but I used to have some crazy fucked up nightmares. Crazy. I don't even know where they came from. Like half of them, because I wasn't allowed watching scary shit. Like I wasn't allowed watching scary stuff. But it's all up here. It's still all up here. So every single experience that's presented has got something in it. So just for instance, I would say if I'd had an experience like that, Penny, where like, let's say I took acid once where I was told not to by something and I did it anyway, and it took everything away. But it took all my strength to remember, right, how to build it all back. And then I don't ever go back there. Why? Because I've been there, I've experienced it, and I know how not to.
But hold on, Ben. What does that have to do with an external source?
Well, but
that is your
like,
own knowledge.
everything essentially is external source.
define that?
Because we don't know whether everything's emanating from us. We don't. We know some things are emanating from us, but we also know that we're receiving things as well.
Exactly.
So, see, we keep falling into this duality of things where, in my world, I can't, like, if you tell me stuff, I can't separate that from you and your experience. I can discuss your experience, but it's happened to you, so I can't sit there and go, that wasn't something that happened to you, regardless of whether it felt like you or not.
I nailed it. Macro and micro.
Yeah,
And that is. And so, but, you know, Danny asked, I think it was you, Danny, who asked, how do you know? And I just know. I mean, there was no friggin' way, and this has happened so many times. No way I even had any solution or anything. And out of the blue. And afterwards, I'm always so grateful because I don't know where it came from. Okay? But I do know when my higher self, because it feels attached. So I think that there's something in what Maya just...
I can remember one time being at the mall, and this was when I was living on my own. And I was probably late for the bus, you know, that went to the mall and, you know, picked people up. But I was thinking at the time, how am I going to get home? And lo and behold, a few seconds later, I ran into my friend's mother and sister, and they ended up driving me home.
Yep. Listen, this is the kind of thing. No, here's the thing. I will say this as well. Because I've worked energetically with a lot of people and worked very, very closely. And there have been times in my life where I've had an external influence come in and play a part. Now, I could possibly now go back through my life and look at other incidences But there are times when that external influence now, like as I give, for example, like Miss Ann Callahan showed up last night for me to check in on me. And I energetically got immediately that it was Ann. And I can say that, like if Ann had sent me a hug and made me feel to comfort me, to make me feel good, I could say that was an external, because it was external. It wasn't from me. Yet I know that it was Ann checking up on me. Just because because like you just said, now in this situation. Whereas 10 years ago, if something like that had happened, it would have been like, what the hell? What was that? Oh, that was like something, like where did that come from? Where did that, I would perceive it as external, as in not coming from a specific person, right? So that's another aspect to this. Like, we don't realize how we interact with people, and we do in a certain sense, like in the point of like in our Unfuckers group, because we're all pretty close. And we talk about, someone says, you showed up in my dream last night and this happened, blah, 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 blah. Or people will say, for me, I get messages and people will say like, I swear you popped into my head last night. And this, we don't realize that we interact with each other on a very, very energetic level. So for example, when we have people come into the Unfuckers room and they're having a hard time, and maybe I'm really, really busy and I don't have time to go and, write out a whole thing, but maybe you just post a love heart. But that love heart is energetically sent. Like when I read someone's story about stuff that's going on, Anna, what you went through last week broke my fucking heart. And there's an exchange there. There is an exchange of energy because you feel it and I send it. Now, to someone who isn't aware, it would be perceived as external, because it is. But at the same time, what is external in the greater sense of external versus what is someone who just loves you and is sending you the emotional support, the love that you need, whatever it is that you need in that moment.
And that's what I was going to say. You said it. Oh my God. What if everything is really energy, including us?
It is.
It doesn't have to be external.
It is.
It doesn't have to be internal. It just is.
It is.
It just is.
One way or another. Some people might draw you a wave format. Some people might draw you a spiral. Some people might draw you a sine wave. Some people might draw you an ohm. Some people might fucking carve something into an obelisk. It's all energy. One way or another.
You know what else is like coming to me is that I am phrase. I am. We are all I am.
Ta-da!
Ta-da! Okay, darlings, it is now 12:30. We've been going for 2.5 hours.
Yeah, ta-da.
I gotta go to bed. Although I'm too hyper to go to bed right now. So,
So then don't.
Okay, boss. Yes, sir. Sir, yes, sir. John, I think we're going to put a cut out our live stream, and then I'll have my quintessential last cigarette here with the Unfuckers who are with us on Zoom. I'll post the video to this as soon as I can get it up tomorrow, as usual. I'm still going to talk to Anne as to whether or not she wants me to release the conversation we had last night, and I could possibly just do the audio if you want. I'm pretty sure I can figure out how to do that, I think.
Oh, it's okay, Danny. It's okay.
Well,
I was a little bit tipsy as well, so that didn't help.
No, you were really together. You were fucking together. For someone who was a little bit tipsy, shit. In your pink bathrobe, I don't know. You looked a hell of a lot more together than I did. One of those quintessential Ben moments. I gotta talk to you. You gotta talk. Let's talk right now. Okay, man. And you have to send me the names of those books, Ben, please, and the authors.
Okay, so thank you and say goodbye to live stream.
So, sorry, what was that, love? Say goodbye to the live stream to everyone in Twitch. Guys, we'll be back every week, every Wednesday night, 10 p.m. Central European Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Daylight, whatever fucking time. That thing, we're like Toronto, New York, that time, 4 p.m. And then it all gets fucked up when we go through daylight savings time again. So I will see you guys next Wednesday. This Sunday is the Unfuckers movie night. I have no idea what we're watching yet. I'll throw it out as to whether we want to watch the scary movie or we want a comedy or whatever. We'll figure it out. But I'll let everyone know. No, we're not doing charades, Fred. That was just a joke. You're terrible. Okay. Anyways, good night to everyone on the live stream. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
And one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.